In our first video on correlation, we introduced something called the correlation coefficient, R, right? Which went from -1 to 1. Remember what it measured? It measured the linear relationship between two variables, x and y. Now, we want to give you the formula for it. So the correlation coefficient formula is what we're all about right now. We're going to call it R. And R is equal to SXY. We'll tell you what that is. Divided by the square root of SXX times SYY. Okay, we're going to tell you what SXY is. So number one, SXY. What you do, you take the x values times the y values, and you add those up. And then you subtract the sum of the x values times the sum of the y values divided by n. What is n? N here is the sample size, or the number of points in your sample. That's SXY. Next, we have SXX. That's the next thing that shows up in the denominator of our formula. So what you do for that, you take the x's, square them, add those up, then subtract the sum of the x's squared. And you divide that sum of the x's squared by n, where n is the number of sample points. And then SYY, you take y, square that, add those squares up, subtract the sum of the y's squared divided by the sample size n. Okay. Now there is the formula for the correlation coefficient. Let's actually work a problem. Work a problem. So there's your formula. You want to write that down somewhere probably. Write that down. I'll give you a moment to write that down. Okay, so you got that, and here's a problem. We're going to calculate the correlation coefficient for two variable data. So consider the two variable data below, where x represents the number of stories in a skyscraper, in skyscrapers, number of stories that skyscrapers have, and y represents their heights. In meters. Okay, so we're given this table here, x and y. So in the x column, you're going to have the number of stories that skyscrapers have. So we have 40-story skyscraper. We have a 48-story skyscraper, a 65-story skyscraper, 72-story skyscraper, 76-story skyscraper, 80-story skyscraper, 84 stories, 90 stories, 95 stories, and 102 stories. So in the x column, we have how many stories these different skyscrapers have. And in the y column, we're told how many meters tall each skyscraper is. So the first skyscraper is 122. The second one's 150 meters. The next one's 202 meters. Next one's 230 meters. The next one's 255 meters. The next one's 250 meters. The next one's 260 meters. The next one's 300 meters. Next one's 288 meters. And the last one is 420 meters. So that's all our information that we're given. So we have two variables, right? The X variable tells us the number of stories the building has. The Y variable tells us how tall in meters each building is. Okay, so what we're going to do first, to find the correlation coefficient, let's write down our formula here. Correlation coefficient. That's what we're calculating. It's going to be the first thing we do. Oh, was it asked? It didn't ask that. Let's actually write that somewhere. Let's ask ourselves to find okay, this will be 1. If I can get this to right. Find the correlation coefficient. For the two variable data. So remember, your formula is going to be what? R equals, do it in red, SXY divided by the square root of SXX times SYY. So we got to find these 1, 2, 3 numbers here, right? The blue, the green, and the purple number. So I'm going to start off with SXX. SXY, the blue one. Remember what that is. That's the sum of X times Y minus, let me get a different color, the sum of the X's times the sum of the Y's divided by N. So the first thing I have to do, I have to create an XY column. XY column. Why do we want an XY column? Because in our formula, notice we're going to have to multiply X and Y together. So I'm going to create an XY column. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply X times Y together. So here goes. I'm going to have what? 40 times 122. It's going to give me 4,880. I have 48 times 150. That's going to give me 7,200. I'm going to take 65 times 202. That's going to give me 13,130. I'm going to take 72 times 230. It's going to give me 16,560. I'm going to have, what, 76 times 255. It's going to give me 19,380. I'm going to take 80 times 250. It's going to give me exactly 20,000. I'm going to have 84 times 260. It's going to give me 21,840. I'm going to have 90 times 300. It's going to give me 27,000. So multiplying the X times the Y's here. Now I'm going to have 95 times 288. It's going to give me 27,360. I'm going to take 102 times 420. It's going to give me 42,840. So I calculated the x times y's because here in my formula, right? You need x times y, and then you have to do some adding up, right? Adding up, adding up, adding up. So come on, let's get this to work. So we're going to add up, right? X times y, right? This right here tells us to add up x times y. So what I'm going to do here on the left side, I'm going to put a little summation symbol. I'm going to add up these different columns. So at some point, I'm going to have to add up all the x's. Why am I going to have to add up all the x's? If you look right here, right, this tells you to add up all the x's. So we're going to add up all the x's. So when you add up all the x's, 40 plus 48 plus 65 plus 72 plus 76 plus 80 plus 84 plus 90 plus 95 plus 102, you should get 752. Okay, add those up. And if you add up the y column, that's going to be what this is right here, right? The sum of the y's. If I add up the sum of the y's, let me get that kind of baby blue color. It's what, 122 plus 150 plus 202 plus 230 plus 255 plus 250 plus 260 plus 300 plus 288 plus 420 is 2,477. Okay, and then we're going to add up the xy's. The xy's, that's the column we just found, the xy column. Let's see, if we add up, let me do that. 4880 plus 7200 plus 13130 plus 16560 plus 19380 plus 2123. I got enough zeros there. Yeah. Plus 21,840 plus 27,000 plus 27,360 plus 42,840. Okay, add those up. I get, let's see, in blue, 200,190. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to plug in right there in place of that sum of the xy's, I'm going to plug in 200,190 minus, I'm going to take my orange number, 752, and put that in for the sum of the x's. That's 752 times the baby blue, 2,477. That's the sum of the y's right there, 2,477. We're going to divide that by n. What is n here? Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 buildings, right? 10, dividing by 10. Okay, so the sum, S of xy is 2,190 minus, let's take 752, multiply it by 2,477. Let's divide that number by 10. We should get 186,270.4. All right, and we're going to subtract those, and that's going to give us SXY. Now I'm going to go ahead and erase my formula right there. That was just for reference. So let's subtract 2,190 minus 186,270.4. I get 13,000. Okay, it's not writing. There it goes, 13,919.6. Okay, so there is my SXY. Now I'm going to find SXX. SXX is going to be the sum of the x squareds minus the sum of the x's squared divided by n. Okay, let me make this one orange here. So we actually have the sum of the x's right here, right? This is the sum of the x's. That's this one right here. We have the n is 10. Now we got to find the sum of the x squared. So to find the sum of the x squared, we have to make a column with x squareds here. So that means I'm going to square the x column, right? I'm going to take the x column and square it. So I'm going to have 40 squared is 1,600. I'm going to have 48 squared is 2,304. What else do I have? I have 65 squared is 4,225. I have 72 squared is, what's 72 squared? 5,184. I have 76 squared, 5,776. Okay, I'm going to do 80 squared now. 80 squared is 6,400. I'm going to do 84 squared. That's, what is 84 squared? No, 7,056. How about 90 squared? 90 squared is 8,100. And 95 squared is 9,025. And what else do we have? 102 squared? Yeah, 102 squared is 10,404. Okay, so what I have to do here, I have to add these up. I have to add up all these x squareds, right? This here is telling me to do that in my formula. Add up the x squareds. So if I punch those into the calculator, I've actually already done that. I get 60,074. 60,074, so I've already done that one. 60, if I can get the red to work. So I did that in advance already. 60,074. So I don't have to spend so much time typing it. Okay, so that means SXX is, so the sum of the x squareds, which we've just calculated right here, is 60,074 minus the sum of the x's. What was the sum of the x's? The sum of the x's was this orange number back here, right? 752. And we got to square that. Square that. And then we're going to divide that by n. Divide that by 10. Come on, dude. That means SXX is 60,074 minus, here we go, we're going to take out our calculator, we're going to do 752, square that, and we're going to divide by 10. It's going to be 56,550.4. So that's going to be, let's say, 60,074 minus 56,550.4. That's going to be 3,523.6. There's our SXX. Okay, now we're going to have to find SYY. We'll put that in green somewhere. The formula for SYY is going to be the sum of y squared minus the sum of the y's squared divided by n. So I already have the sum of the y's, right? The sum of the y's I already have. Right there, that's the sum of the y's. But I don't have the sum of the y squared, so I'm going to have to create a y squared column here. Now, how do I find what the y squared column is? I'm going to take the y's over here. I'm going to square each of those numbers. So I'm going to take 122 and square it. I'm going to get 14,884. 14,884. Okay, what else? I'm going to take 150 and square that. I'm going to get 22500. I'm going to take 202 and square that. I'm going to get 40,084. What else? I'm going to take 230 and square that. I'm going to get 52,900. I'm going to take 255 and I'm going to square that. I'm going to get 65,025. I'm going to take 20,000 and square that. I'm going to get 4. No. What am I saying? I'm taking 250 and squaring that. What's 250 squared? 65. No, it's 62,500, right? 62,500. Let me get that right. 62,500. That's what happens when you square 250, right? 250 squared is 62,500. 260 squared is 67,600. 300 squared is 90,000. 288 squared is 82,944. 420 squared is 176,400. 176,400. Okay, so we're going to have to add up the y squareds here in this box down here, and we're going to get, what do we get here? I've already done this in advance. 675,557. 675,557. Okay, that's the sum of the y squares. So here we go. We're going to plug in. The sum of the y squares is what we just calculated in that box. It's 675,557 minus blank squared over n. What's the sum of the y's? The sum of the y's is that kind of baby blue color we had earlier. It's 2,477. And all that's divided by 10, right? 10 was the number of sample points, number of skyscrapers. So we have SYY equals 675, 557 minus, let's take 2,477 and square that. Golly, my calculator's messing up on me. And divide that by 10. So I'm going to get 613,552.9. So I'm going to subtract those numbers. 675,557 minus 613,552.9. Let me try that. 675,557 minus 613,552.9. And when I do that, I'm going to get 62,004.1. Okay, we're ready to calculate the correlation coefficient now that we have these three numbers. I'm going to call it purple. So the correlation coefficient R, remember, is SXY divided by the square root of SXX times SYY. So here goes. So in place of SXY, I'm going to put 13,919.6. In place of SXX, I'm going to put, let me erase some of this. 3,523.6 multiplied by SYY. It's going to be 62,004.1. Now let's calculate all this. I'll plug that in my calculator. Let's see if I can get it to work. 13,919.6 divided by the square root of 3523.6 times 62004.1. So I get an R of 0.9417. I'm going to take it to 4 decimal places. I didn't write too well, did it? Let me write it a little more clearly. A darker purple, maybe. Come on, work, please. 0.9417. I'm going to use 4 decimal places for my correlation coefficient. Okay, all that work. Wow, how much time did that take? I don't know. A lot of time to do a correlation coefficient. So we calculated the correlation coefficient. Step 2. What are we going to ask? Are the variables directly or inversely related? Related. Question. Well, the answer is directly, right? So since R is positive, since you have a positive correlation, then they are directly related. X and Y are directly related. Okay, number 3. What is the strength of the correlation? How strong is it? Is it strong? Is it moderate? Is it weak? Is there no correlation, or is it a perfect correlation? It's strong, right? It's a strong correlation. Remember, when the correlation is between 0.7 and 1, so greater than or equal to 0.7 and less than 1, it's a strong positive correlation. It is strong. All right, I guess I'll just quit right there. First problem involving the correlation coefficient. Yeah, very tedious, right? Very tedious with the computations. Not hard, but it's very tedious.